Here we go. In the technology space, we like to echo move fast and break things. But as we are moving fast and breaking things, we might be flouting rules that might land us into serious minds in terms of fines and compliance. So we made it a point of duty to bring two legal and AI responsible consultants to have the discussion with us about how to make our AI responsible and things to look out for in regulating AI or making it compliant to what we're doing. And the first person on our panel is Onowe, who is the legal engineer at Onowe, has a wealth of experience advising clients in expansion worldwide and AI. Very robust CV, but I'd just like to dive right into the conversation and welcome Onowe. Onowe, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. Hi, David. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Yeah. And so our second panelist is Seyi, who is an AI governance consultant who has worked with several established organizations, including enterprise organizations, Spotify and PwC, advising them on AI and safety and governance. She'll be talking more on the responsible AI and governance standpoint, and we hope to have a robust conversation. Hi, Seyi, how are you doing today?
Hi, David. Hi, everybody. It's really great to be here.
Great. And so we start with the first conversation. As we move fast and break things, we know that AI is making things easy for everyone and is shaping how we do things. But how do we make it an equal feature for all?
Onowe, would you like to go first? Would you like me to go first?
Okay, let me go first, and then you can go. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'll just start from where the last presenter stopped. It was so fascinating to see what he's doing with AI, right? And the innovation there is unparalleled. But as we move fast and break things, as we innovate, the only way that we can ensure that it's still equal, there's equality, there's no discrimination, right? We're building tools that are responsible, that won't eliminate vulnerable jobs, that is fair, is ensuring that we also prioritize trust as well. So building things, prioritizing trust speaks to building things that respect data privacy, respect IP, respect things that will ensure that these tools are not just innovations, but are things that can be used to better society. So as we move fast, as we innovate, my call here would be for us to also build trust, build responsible AI as well.
Aisha, do you have anything to share?
Sure. Just a few things to add on to the points that Onowe has so eloquently put forward already. So as you said, there's no doubt that AI is reshaping our society. There's lots of opportunities, but we also face really significant risks of widening inequality gaps that already exist. And so to create an equitable AI future, there's a lot of elements to consider. And I can just really briefly touch on three main ones that I think are especially critical in the region. And first would be to prioritize inclusivity within AI systems themselves. A lot of my responses will kind of focus on merging the governance and the technical. And so there's three main elements that interact to develop AI systems. The data that serves as the foundation, and as the training materials, the algorithms that process and learn from the information from the data, and the computing resources that power the entire system. So inclusive design requires looking really closely at each of these elements through an equity lens to identify and address things like potential sources of bias and exclusion. It's really, really crucial that these systems are trained on representative data that capture diverse experiences. The algorithms need to be evaluated across different demographic groups to ensure that, they're performing consistently across those groups. And then in terms of computing resources, those need to be really democratized so that AI benefits aren't concentrated among demographics that are already privileged. And just as a final point on this question, this will relate to increasing the accessibility of the benefits of AI to a wider range of people. Creating equality means deliberately directing AI research and investment towards challenges that are faced by underserved communities. We need to be asking really crucial questions like, whose problems are we solving with these really powerful technologies? We should be expanding the scope of AI applicability beyond generative AI into other domains like healthcare that affect marginalized groups. And then finally, just representation in the development itself. We need diversity in the teams that build AI, in engineering, in product development and design. And I think just a merger of all of these three domains will propel us forward into a more equitable AI future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. The next question will be, what are some key legal or regulation considerations that we should be looking at within Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and probably globally? What are some regulations that we should be mindful of when dealing with AI? And this question is open to you both. But Onowe can take the lead.
Okay. So key regulation that everyone should know about, of course, is the European AI Act, right? And that's because, we know that typically when it comes to regulation, the European Union is foremost in creating comprehensive things, right? Comprehensive provisions that ensure that people's rights are protected. So the EU AI Act is very, very important. There's also a voluntary code that is coming into play. That will be for generative AI that people should watch out for as well. There are also national rules that are coming up. So you have there's China, there's France, there's Germany. These are laws that we need to be aware of. And when it comes to the EU, it's very important to call out, because I was reading something yesterday, and the person was saying, my company is not in the EU, so I don't have to care about the European Union AI Act. And that's far from the truth, because if you follow data privacy issues, you would know that the way the EU always regulates is they regulate by where the users of your software are. So if you are going to have European users, which you most likely will if your product is global, you would have to comply with the provisions of the EU AI Act in that regard. So it's important to be aware of these rules. I would say something about it before I hand over to Seyi. It's not, in this case, it's not like everyone flat out go and read the law and it applies to you in the same way. The law has done some classification on how you actually use AI, right? So today, if you build a social scoring system, Seyi was talking about inclusivity and all of that. If you build something like what they were using in China for social scoring, that is unacceptable. It's not an AI that should be developed and should not be used in the EU. So if you're already building something like that, you should know that, that's not acceptable there. Then you have the ones that are categorized as high risk, right? So, and that means it has, the way the AI is being used, it has critical decision-making capabilities, right? So if it's going to help people check your credit approvals, right? If it's going to help with hiring, this is classified as a high-risk AI for use, right? So in that regard, there are some provisions that you would need to comply with if you're using AI for those things, right? And those laws are those provisions are supposed to come into place sometime this year. Then you have the ones that are limited, which is that you're using it maybe like a chat bot, right? You're just using it to respond to customers. And if that's the case, in that instance, you need to actually disclose to the customer that you're speaking to an AI agent, right, or an AI chatbot. And if you aren't comfortable with any response, you can escalate to a human being. So there has to be human oversight, right, of what's being done. I forgot to mention that it's also important when you're using AI for hiring and for critical decisions. It's important that you store the information, the prompts, all the things that you're using, because it's a high risk area. So in that regard, the law is very, very, the law requires you to be very careful about how you do it. So there should be audit trails, or how did we actually make the decision? What was used, right? And then there's, of course, the last category is minimal. That means something like, I'm using it to filter my email, right? And in that regard, there are no rules, just guidelines, right, to provide for such use of AI. So, sorry, pardon me. These are the important things that you should know, that businesses should focus on as they develop AI. Once you have users in the EU, the European AI Act applies to you.
Thanks so much. Seyi, any other pitfalls that you think people really miss out on, or anything you think people should take note of?
I think from a legal perspective, I think Onowe has done a fabulous job answering that question. So yeah, nothing to add there specifically.
Okay, I was just looking to taking your last words along with that. Or are there any things that you think we should note generally?
On that
responsible AI, the general discussion of responsible AI safety and governance.
I mean, from a general perspective, I mean,
yeah,
I would just say, prioritize ethics in how you develop and deploy your AI tools. Ethics is a really elusive concept. People, it kind of throws people off a little bit. But essentially, when an AI system is ethical, it means that you're prioritizing human beings. It means that you're being fair and you're not discriminating with your data. It means you're transparent and you're able to explain, to your stakeholders how these AI systems are functioning, how they're reaching their outputs. It means that it's safe, it's secure. So it means that you're doing rigorous testing before deployment to identify potential harms. And fifth, and finally, I'd say, it requires accountability, which means establishing really, really clear lines of responsibility within your organizations for AI outcomes, and creating systems that can address, situations when these systems may cause harm. So from an ethical perspective, I would say prioritize ethics in your dealings.
Thank you so much. Prioritize ethics, and they've been kind enough to also share some resources concerning AI governance, and they will be sharing some as we go forward sometime later. And so if you are registered for the session, you likely get access to some resources, either templates, I don't know all those legal terms, but definitely they've been kind enough to share some of these resources with us. So just look out for that in your mail, because we're trying to wrap up, and so we have to run. But thank you so much, Seyi and Onowe, for this session. We like to move fast and break things, but we want to also be mindful of what we might be missing out on. We appreciate you for coming on. Please, a round of applause for them.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers.